دلبيج راديو
راديو بول
ويتيو سبحان شير
راديو الجسر
راديو اسكو حركة
The Bridge Radio.
If we are talking about the experiences of speaking up, especially if you are in the asylum systems in Denmark, of course, like the experience of many asylum seekers, you'll realize a lot of the media is not interested in the stories of asylum seekers unless it's a negative story. Unless something bad has happened or asylum seekers have been caught doing drugs, then a lot of the media will jump onto those stories. But if it's just about the experiences of people living in the camps, not a lot of media are interested in this. And so it rests upon us as people who are in these systems or as the asylum seekers in the refugee centers or the refugees or immigrants in general to speak up on their own and to find other ways that they can navigate this media blackout that we are normally given. For example, there are a few initiatives already that are going on to try and create a platform where asylum seekers, refugees, and immigrants can speak out. You know, the Red Cross have this New Times magazine that allows asylum seekers with a journalistic background or who have an interest in writing stories to tell their own stories. Trampoline House is another good example that has a lot of initiatives, magazine vis-a-vis that publishes stories from asylum seekers by activists and other people. Refugees Welcome by Michaela Bandiksen is also another good initiative. And now we have this fantastic Bridge Radio initiative that gives a voice to, not really giving a voice because people already have a voice, but giving a platform to people to speak out, create their own programs, send it out through the internet and social media to reach a lot of other people out there. I have worked across a lot of these medias. I personally have tried to use some of these platforms to tell stories about the conditions in the asylum centers. But I've also been involved a lot in trying to lobby. And by lobbying, I mean trying to get politicians, for example, to come into the centers, to meet the women and children living to these centers. So, I mean, we have a lot of opportunities. The only challenge is how do we grab these opportunities to tell our own stories that are not heard? Some platforms are there. There's plenty more we can do. So the challenge is for us to just band together, come together, and use some of these initiatives that are already there. The general discourse that we hear on established media is a negative portrayal of asylum seekers or refugees. So when the media paints a picture of, for example, an asylum seeker who was caught doing drugs, the public perception of these centers is a place where people who are doing all these crazy things live together. So it becomes very difficult even in the public perception to distinguish between the people who really need help and most of the people. I mean, I have lived in these centers, and a lot of us who live in these centers know that people who are in these centers are people who are actually in need, people who had their own lives from their countries, had their own experiences, have talents, and who are just displaced because of war, or because of threats to their lives, or because of torture or other dehumanizing experiences. So the established media has no particular interest in telling these stories. And so that's why we have to have alternative ways to tell our own stories, to set the record straight, because nobody is paying the media about the women fleeing from Somalia or Syria, or the young people who have been forced into joining military in Eritrea and have to flee. Nobody's interested in telling those stories. They show up once in a while, but that's not the whole story that we hear in the media. The whole story we hear is a very negative story, because the media has no motivation whatsoever to tell a positive story about us. So we have to stand up. We have to tell the different story that we want the general public to hear. And it is a challenge, but we have to take this challenge. For the people who are in the centers far away from any big cities like Copenhagen or Aarhus, who have been marginalized and put in the farthest corners of this country, for example, there's still something we can do. You know, we have to be very courageous. I know it's very challenging to be far away. I know we don't have a lot of resources. Even the internet is a problem. Even having credit for your phones is a problem. Having even stamps to send letters is a problem. But we really have to try our level best with the limited resources we have to still tell our own stories. What we can do, if I have to be very concrete, for example, let's write letters. If you're scared that if they know that wrote a letter to complain about something, that you will get negative repercussions, write an anonymous letter, put on a different name, but tell a concrete, credible story. Don't create false stories, because those will be blown up. But if you have a real issue that you want to address, if it's the conditions of living in the centers, if it is how the staff treat you, please, let's address these letters. Let's write to the heads of the Red Cross. Let's write to politicians in parliament. Let's write to journalists. Let's write to activists, to trampoline who's. Let's use all avenues to tell the conditions that we are living in. Nobody is going to speak for us, so we have to speak up for ourselves. Even with the limited resources, if you have internet, write emails. On the internet, there are a lot of initiatives, for example, that also work around these areas. Post messages on Facebook. Use different names. Ask people to help you write, or tell this story to other people who have opportunities. If you have friends working for New Times, tell their stories. Or if you're somebody who is connected to the Bridge Radio, let them tell about these stories. So we have to try, with the limited resources we have, to break this fear that is always there, that, if I speak up, maybe the Red Cross will look at me badly, maybe the immigration will not take care of my case. We have to break this fear. We have to break this fear that we have been put on, sometimes even directly by some of the staff, that, if you write this, it will have a negative implication on your case, or if you write this, maybe you'll be moved to another, even harder place to live in. We have to break this fear. And how do we break this fear? Use the channels we have. We have to get out of this fear, because this is the fear that the authorities and the empire is trying to put on us, so that we remain silent, we don't complain, we just think that we are getting a favor by being put in a camp and getting some food. We have to speak up, because we are human and we have rights that are internationally recognized, and nobody's going to bring them for us where we are. We have to get out there through any channels whatsoever. Let's get our voices heard.